Hear Me See Me podcast is sponsored by Zenoti, the #1 cloud software for salons and spas. Because when people feel good, they find their greatness. I am Stuart Roberts, and I'm really excited to introduce my new podcast, Hear Me See Me. It's just over 5 years ago. I did something that changed my life. What it did, more than I could have ever realised, it helped me. I have met some absolutely amazing people. Some of the people that work in some of these places, many of them are volunteers, but some of them it is their job. I'd had this idea after being inspired by a guy in America I'd seen cutting hair on the streets and seeing the difference it made to the guys who were there. This is more than a job, this is a calling. Hello, this is Stuart from Hear Me See Me podcast. Today is a real emotional one. This podcast today is all about the new, out now, Hear Me See Me book. I'm with the two brothers I've got that have been on the journey with me to create this beautiful book, and we're just going to tell you how it happened. Today I'm with Jack Eames and Leigh Keates. Hello, how are you both?
Good, mate. It's great to be here.
Hello, mate. Yeah, it's really good to be here, and what a fantastic achievement for all that.
I must say, it's a Sunday morning. This is going out on Wednesday, and they both look how I feel. If anyone's wondering why we all look a bit like this, it's a Sunday morning. But I want to go straight back to, I never planned a book at all. It came along when it's sort of a catalyst of things that Leigh volunteered at a British Beauty Week, wasn't it, Leigh? 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Just years ago now.
Yeah, and I'd never met you before, and we'd done this thing at Covent Garden, and there was you and me and Adam Reed and Neil Moody and Johnny Sapong. It was a great day, and that's the first time you'd done it, and then you come and volunteered with Whitechapel Mission, and you two guys knew each other, didn't you? And then the Christmas it was just pre-pandemic, wasn't it, Jack, that you first came? Was that?
I'm just trying to sort of yeah, it was about October, November time. So yeah, a few months before.
Much before the pandemic. Yeah. And then Jack came and took some pictures. We met in the old coffee shop on the corner, and and then the first session came, and I don't know, Jack, what was your first thing when because you didn't even take any pictures the first time, did you?
I didn't, mate. I think and I had my camera there in the bag, and lenses, everything ready to do it. And like you said, the first one for me was Whitechapel Mission, and that's sort of I think been a favourite of yours, Stuart, and the level of the amount of stuff going on. I felt like I just wanted to see that and absorb it properly, and to take my camera up felt quite intrusive. And a bit disrespectful to you, Leigh, and a couple of the other volunteers in terms of you guys have obviously been around and doing it for a bit. Then this massive tall photographer rocks up. So, and the guests, I wanted people to feel comfortable that I was part of the team, but I wasn't just this outsider taking pictures. And it was a beautiful experience because I've seen all the guests feel so comfortable with the way that you, Leigh, and the team were, just how you were working and how you were with each one, and also some of them fell asleep and things. It was just beautiful to see that calmness, that care, that love. So I just felt like I wanted to see it rather than pull my camera up.
Yeah, and the crucial thing of that is this is why you was the perfect fit to because we had to really if we was going to have a photographer on our we had to really let the photographer in really closely into what we do, because it's been 2 years of having you there, and the most important thing is the respect for the guests. And the wrong photographer, it would never have been able to happen. I mean, you remember, I won't go too into detail, but we went to a certain football club with a certain daily paper, with a certain, and this photographer was the opposite of what you need to be. Do you remember him? Like,
I remember it well, and it was fine. And
do you remember how annoyed I was getting? I was like, fuming.
I do. And you said, look, I've had this loads when press or other photographers come along, and by that point, luckily, certainly from my point of view, we've built up a good understanding and rapport. But also, don't know if you remember, but you did vet me a few times with like phone calls, and you said, look, come and meet me for a coffee before we go in and things, which, and rightly so. I just wanted, I think you thought, let's check him out first. Yeah, Leigh and I had a working history as well, and seen each other, a couple of times in and around the industry. But you didn't know me from Adam. And I think, it is such those 2 hours are incredibly private and safe for the guests. And you've taken a long time building that up. Yeah. And look, you set up Haircuts Famous, but equally with Leigh, Leigh's a massive session guy. And to walk into that room and see, Leigh and Louis, Louis Byrne, no ego, no, nothing. And Louis actually had a kick-off, as we often did at Whitechapel Mission. And, and you just whispered in my ears, like, that guy doesn't know how sort of, amazing Louis is. And he was having a real go at Louis, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And in your own lovely way, you sort of diffused it. You said, look, come here and have a hug. And so I was seeing all these things happen in front of me, and I just knew that, and I knew it before I came to that first session, was seeing it come up on your Instagram, Leigh's Instagram, that it just felt like a good fit for me to come along and document what was happening. Over time, take some really beautiful portraits, but with the overall thing of the respect for the guests, respect for you and your volunteers, but to try and somehow put some back in to the charity and to help the charity, because I was at a point in my career where I work in the beauty industry and it's very privileged and very luxe, but I just had to do something else that involved it. And if there was a way of helping you guys out, win-win, brilliant. And look, that's kind of how, when the suggestion of the book came up, that's sort of where we're at now, isn't it, really?
Yeah. And that leads me on to Leigh. Leigh, when Leigh's a very important role in this book came from that first session we did in Covent Garden, because I'd already been doing stuff, and I found that because I'm sort of orchestrating these events. No, they're not events. It's because I'm orchestrating these sessions, projects, and that I get wrapped up in it all. And sometimes I'm work, and I'm I've always got my eye on someone else and everything else. And even though I'm hearing and sharing stories, I'm not taking on board as much. And that first session in Covent Garden, Leigh put a few posts. You put a few posts on, Leigh, but you'd really taken the time to listen to people and to get their story. And just those first few posts you put on said so much more. And it made me realise that it's something I hadn't been doing, because even though I thought it was enough that I knew it, but I needed other people to know it. I was taking it just because I'd heard it, everyone knew. And I took a lot of... I took a big example from your first few posts, because they were so much more detailed,
Yeah, I think for me, that session, it was just like the opening introduction with the guy's hair I was cutting. It was just, it really, like, just literally the opening words from out his mouth were I introduced myself as Leigh. Oh, that's my son's name. And it's those words made me go from homeless man to father to parent to family to all these other words. And it just it really spun my perception of homelessness just in literally, words. And it just then there was just several other conversations throughout that day. Like each one had I kind of shared a real eye-opening experience, and there was just too many things really close to home for me to not it and share it, because it felt too important and too just too close to home for me, really. It was a real eye-opener.
Yeah. And that came across, and I think that's where you've really come into play with having that ear, and even to a point where on some sessions people might not realise that Leigh's been there. Jack's obviously doing his thing, I've been doing my thing, but Leigh sometimes he's just sort of melded into the background, and even though he's a fantastic hairdresser, he's not actually been cutting hair. He's been sitting in the background in his notebook, and he's just been listening, and he's got that ear for picking up those beautiful nuggets of information about people, which we've translated into the book, because we made the decision that primarily it's a photographic book, but it needed those stories, but we didn't want reams and reams of text. We felt it would have diluted the flow of the book. Mm. So we've picked up on key sentences, and Leigh's taught me that, because even I started to listen to, certain key instances and there's things that were too, there's things that I haven't made the book because they're just too strong. They're too disturbing. The one that I always bring out to people, that if a story is summed up in a sentence, it's my dad was my pimp. Now that sentence says so much about a young girl's journey that you almost don't need the story. I mean, I got the story after, and it just brought tears to my eyes. And having 4 daughters and 2 granddaughters, you can't help but be touched by this stuff, and be grateful that your life is so different. But yeah, and I was so grateful that at the end of we managed. We've just getting that we've got to get this together now stage. And it was just about before we made the day of the final thing, when I was in Wakefield, and this lady just come out with this sentence that, she said, I'm only here because my husband gambled our house away, and then she told me, and the story's horrific, the story for her. It explains why she's there. But that one sentence, I'm so pleased that made the book because it says everything, doesn't it?
It says so much. And I think, going back to your original point, Stuart, that I felt as well before I sort of got involved with Haircuts for Homeless, and what you were saying about the way Leigh translated his feelings into the post and what he saw. I hadn't actually sort of quite seen that level of honesty around something that was incredibly, I felt, certainly for me, and it seems the same for you, Stuart, to write about, because we see these things and we feel these things. And Leigh actually wrote in one of his posts about the mental health situation amongst a lot of the guests, and that, also, and it, possibly a controversial thing at that time, and still is, sort of wrote that, it seems to be affecting a lot of more men. It seems to be that men are numerically more in these homeless situations and setups. And I think, statistic wise, that is true, but it felt quite very refreshing for me to see someone put it out there that honestly in that in that visceral way, because it is really honest. And I came along to those sessions, Stuart, and when the three of us sat down afterwards and had a cup of tea or something, and for me to see that level of mostly men and a lot of mental illness and a lot of medication that was being taken or missed because we think how hard it is for us to stay on top of our stuff that's going on in our lives and things, and we have a roof over our head, we have partners and family that can scoop us up, but most of these people don't. So how can you stay on top of things like mental health and your own health in general? So I felt that because when we see long writing on posts, I often don't read it.
No.
But I read Leigh's, and and then that was it for me, really. It was just like, I just got to be involved in this. And like you said, Leigh just comes into sessions, sits there, writes stuff down, and to see that then translated into the book, it just matches so well with the pictures. I'm really I feel it's been, such an important part of the book.
And it's hard for him to melt with a background because he's so bloody good looking. That's a problem. Do you remember in Sheffield, one of our guests really took a shine to you, and he was really uncomfortable. And I'm a terrible human being because I just had to encourage it. And the more embarrassed you was feeling, the more I was egging her on.
Absolutely. And it's not just that session, Stuart. Let's be honest. Most sessions, people have a good soft spot for Leigh, which is just as well for us too, Stuart. We need a face of haircuts for homeless, and Leigh's it. But yeah, it's all joking aside, it's felt like a really lovely trio. And also, let's not forget Belinda. She's been amazing in making the sessions certainly work for me, who's much more intrusive than Leigh, because I've got the camera, and it's a big thing to hold a camera up and take someone's picture. But and a big thing for me as well as the guest. So I just felt like a really lovely team. And we did Peterborough and things together a few times. And Leigh and I would sometimes, if I heard something, I'd text it Leigh, or Leigh would say, look, you need to come and get this picture. So it was just really, it worked really well.
And that was the thing of it evolving. Sorry, Leigh, go on.
No, you carry on.
I was just going to say that was the thing of it evolving, wasn't it? That in the end we found our sort of role and found our way, and then it flowed between us with almost even a look, and including Belinda. It's important for you, Jack, that I know that she's the sort of the in between. She's the barrier for you. That she could just give you a nod that someone's okay. She'd sort of check with them that if they're okay for being. And we have to put that out there. People often say, do they mind? And we go, well, we wouldn't do it if they minded. And not only mind, they happily and joyously want us to do this. They feel invisible, so it's someone wanting to shine the light on them.
It's massive, but I don't want to bang on about it, but it can't be understated the importance of Belinda, because she does it in such a lovely, soft way that enables the picture to be taken, and then also Leigh to sit there and and just take it all down. But it's interesting. We did a session, didn't we, recently down at St James near Victoria?
Yeah,
and to be fair to Leigh, not only is he sort of taking stories down, sometimes he does have to jump in and do the cuts. He did it at Southend as well.
Yeah,
Peterborough. But we were chatting between us to some of the guests about them doing photography courses. I mean, which is what I do for my career. Leigh also has a restaurant. And then one of them was chatting about the fact that he's going into an 8-week restaurant internship, wasn't he, Leigh? Things like that just to do these sessions to try and just work hard at what you towards some goals, and massive respect.
Yeah, I think it's that part of the whole learning journey as well. It's like, we've been in there, been involved to get this book together and to provide the sessions and stuff like that. But I've been learning a lot about what these things, these centres offer for guests, and the guests taking advantage of education courses, and I don't know. It's just, it's just changing that every second changes my perception a little bit more and a little bit more. And, I just want to know how to do it on a larger scale, so people aren't as naive and ignorant as I was. And I think that is where I felt the importance of the book could be, because you get these beautiful images of people expressing all sorts of emotion, whether it's tiredness or sad or gratitude or just bliss or peace, or you flick through them and you see all these things, but then you also do get the captions which kind of people interested. Again, you get a bit of sadness and gratitude, and it's basically real life and real human emotion, and it's just changing that word homeless to human. And I'm really excited about this book, and the way by the end of it, kind of, as you just mentioned, the fluing us all, and the roles that we're playing, and if picking up for each other, it's just been an exciting journey, and it's really, I think, doing these lives and these podcasts and stuff like that, it's just given me a chance to kind of reflect over what we have achieved and our work that's gone in, and every role that each of us have played. And I think it's going to be so satisfying when we're actually getting these books into people's hands.
Yeah, I mean, I said earlier today to Jack that I've already put on Instagram, and I really want it to become a thing, that when people get their book through the post, that once they've had a good look at it, that they then hold the book up and do a selfie with the book and hashtag Hear Me See Me Book and at Haircuts for Homeless, and get this thing going where we can get everyone showing themselves how pleased they are with the book, and then we can put a reel together of all of those things.
Fantastic.
And I think it'd be a great way of sharing out the impact the book's had on people.
Agreed. Yeah.
You said something there, Leigh, that to remind it. See, the thing is, I mean, this could go on for hours. It won't. I promise everyone it won't. But it could, because each thing, this is a two, when people lift this book into their hands and look at it, this is a 2-year journey, this book. And there's so much, for every one picture, there's 20, 30 that haven't gone in, book 2. But there's you said about the emotions, and one of them you said was tiredness. So immediately that took me to a session in Peterborough, where we were doing a session with the street working girls, and there was a lovely, not that it matters, but just this lovely looking young lady came in. And it was my sister. It was Belinda again, who really, really, it moved Belinda in a way, because we were all busy, I think, and it was Belinda that really clocked it. After, I'm sure she did have a photograph taken, but then she went, and when the fuss was all over, she went and had a cup of tea, sat at the table, and Belinda said she just looked like she just was going to go to sleep. She just looked like, and then Belinda thought then of, because we talked about this on the way home in the car, this is when we digest a lot of the stuff, and she said that she thought of what her life, how, hard work that is. That's hard work, emotionally, physically, and the woman was just shattered. She'd absolutely shattered, possibly been working all night, and she just got to the state of being relaxed probably felt safe.
Mm.
And then the phone text went, and her whole demeanour changed. And it's obviously where are you? You know, that type of thing. And then that panic, and then she had to leave quickly. You know, they're the aspects of life that I'd never get to witness. I wouldn't witness what that's like. I see the caricature of the street working girl and all that, but I'd never think of the emotional cost and the physical cost and the, you know, and the fact of what we're doing is that just even brief, even that half an hour of care and love and attention, that it's so valid. And even if it's fleeting, you know, it's a break, isn't it? It's just a break from that cycle.
It's a break from that cycle, and I think Sam McKnight summed up a lot of it beautifully in his foreword as well, about the power of a haircut and that human connection, that touch and be touched. But yeah, look, you know, you mentioned the Peterborough sessions, and they're incredibly tough. You know, the women's outreach in the afternoon and the men's outreach in the morning. But yeah, the stories and the faces. And I remember that woman well. She just sat at the table, literally supping a cup of tea and having a baguette that a local business had donated. So, you know, and I think Leigh said this earlier, after every single session, and some more than others, definitely Peterborough for me, it's a bit of a, you know, it takes a lot to process, and it really does bring so much into perspective. And also, it also shows we've got a long way to go in support for people who, you know, just need support in different ways. But that's the lovely thing with Haircuts for Homeless, isn't it? That it's an immediate action. I haven't got to fill in forms. I haven't got to queue up somewhere. And, you know, it's regular. It's every 4 or 6 weeks. And that's so important.
Yeah, consistency is key. Consistency is the most important thing that we can offer. Someone said to me the other day, I was chatting to someone about doing something for the LGBTQ community and that, and they said about this, you know, we do this big event, and I went, I said, well, don't want to interrupt you, but it's got to be lower key but consistent. You know, if you're going to do something, you need it to be done on a regular basis so that people can build up trust. You know, otherwise you're just doing an event that you're showing up and you're walking away, and they have enough of that. They have enough of people showing up and walking away. You know,
absolutely, and form filling and this, that, and the other. So, yeah, it's you know, and long may Haircuts for Homeless continue, because that's a big part of why we've brought the book out, isn't it? You know, so that all the money goes back in to the charities, so you and volunteers can run these sessions, Stuart. Yeah,
I'm going to go to a happy one now as well. We've got, because it goes back to Peterborough again, funnily enough, but I've got to talk about Shane. Shane, like, and it's okay me saying all these things about him because he's a very open person, but because of my addictions and my journey in that I've got an understanding of these things. And so sometimes I make a connection, and I really did with Shane in Peterborough, because we just clicked straight away. And there's a lot we show. There's an awful lot we don't show. Now, there was a couple of times when I went off into a room with Shane for a good sort of half hour or so, and we really had a proper sort of sharing session, discussion, and I think you've both been in. I think you've both seen that, because I think you've done it once, Jack, and you've done it as well, didn't you, Leigh, for one time, and you both witnessed it. You know, the privilege that I have of that, you know, confidence that we wouldn't share. But then, I don't know if you both saw, but this week when Peterborough, we weren't there, but Sharon, the lovely Sharon, who's our team leader there, had got Shane, because this Friday, so that he's in his own place this weekend,
Brilliant.
He's got his own place, and he said to camera, you know, I'm doing all right, Stuart, and it's so, I can't tell people how rewarding and how I'm just so happy for him, you know, that he's turning that corner.
So happy for him, and he's had to really dig in, Stuart, because Leigh was in the room for the first time that you were chatting, then I was out doing portraits, and then I did the second one, which is, you know, one of the more recent ones with you, and you know, you were caught on the motorway, Stuart, and he was asking everybody when you were turning up and things, and waited around, and then, you know, you and Belinda came in, and he ran across the road, you know, to embrace you. And I saw that video of him, and it was incredible. You know, that from that. Do you remember I can't remember how many months ago it was, maybe about 3-ish, that we were in the room chatting and things, and he wasn't in a good place.
No, I was worried about it.
And you chatted with him in the room. You also had private chat with him, and you just really, you know, you listened to him. But he really wanted to, you know, came across in that the video as well from Sharon, that he wanted you to see it. He looked so much better, Stuart, and that's so important, didn't he? You know, his hair was better, his skin was better, he was just more connected. It was beautiful to see.
Yeah. It's what we do it for. It's, you know, it is what we do it for.
Absolutely.
I get frustrated. You know, it's not easy running this type of organisation. You know, it's a small organisation. We have budgeting problems, you know, funding problems. We have people problems. We have, you know, all of these things. And sometimes I just think, I think I'll just go and get a job somewhere. You know, I've had enough. You know, and you know, it's pissing down the rain, and I'm on a train, and you know, all of these things. But those moments are what make me realise that I'm doing this for the rest of my life. Those are the moments that make me know that however challenging it all gets, that I'm going nowhere and I'm doing this for the rest of my life. And the journey with us three, that I've known that, you know, we've got this, you know, unbreakable bond now that we've built up on this, because it hasn't been, nothing worthwhile is easy. It ain't been smooth, you know, like it's been challenging. But is this the time to lift up what? Oh, Leigh's not even seen. I mean, I've had it briefly in my hands before it got taken away. Leigh's not even held this yet, but I think it's time. Be careful.
I think you had it in your hand for about a heartbeat, didn't you, Stuart? And then I was just like, right. No. Yeah, on that, Rob the printer, you know, he hand delivered it to you in your house, didn't he?
Rob the printer delivered that by hand. I wish you could video that. I wish you could have videoed Rob handing that over to me. It was like he offered me his firstborn son. It was just big praise to Rob the printer, who's really emotionally invested.
He's been phenomenal, and his team.
Sorry, it's not just Rob, it's his team, his whole team. Hey!
So there's the cover. There's the back. Quick little squiz through, pop. Don't want to show too much.
Don't show too much.
No. Hold on. There's a nice little balance of the quotes and the picture. Boom. and a nice little teaser, which is, you know, the cover that, you know, just felt like, you know, the three of us. And also, let's not forget Mary in all this. Mary just really pulled off, you know, crowdfunder and lots of changes and things. So there's a nice little, you know, contact sheet cover, which you can open up and see behind the scenes in some of the sessions a bit more. So it's a beautiful piece of art. And I think right from the very off of pulling this book together, Leigh said, you know, and it just stuck with the three of us all the way through. Needs to be an art book. It needs to be a beautiful, beautiful book that we're all really proud of. Because this is a long-term part of the charity and pushing everything forward. So, look, this is the only one in the world right now. But as of Wednesday, we're getting a load more, and we still need to sell a load more.
Yeah. Then the fun begins because we've got 1,000. I mean, we've done so well. I think probably around about the 150 mark sold on the pre-order of the crowdfunder. So, but it means we've got lots and lots to sell. It's now available on the website, the Haircuts Famous website. That Ollie has so kindly got, I pushed him to get that done over the weekend, that you can click on and buy it. I bought the first one myself just to make sure it worked. I've read so many of these bloody books myself. I might sign it to myself, but I got a real kick because it came through on the order and it said number 00001. So I've got number 0001 coming, but it's a massive thing. And I think at one point, I'm sure it was you, Leigh, that we were going away. It started to be all about haircuts for homeless. It was going to be a haircuts for homeless book. Thinking we was going to call it Haircuts for Homeless, and it was and then Leigh pointed out that there was a lot of the logo. There was a lot of the logo showing, and and we all took it on. This is what we've done for each other. That we wouldn't, any one of us, it would have been a different thing. Each one. I mean, me, it would have just been all about me. Jack, it would have been all, and Leigh, but like by the three, it evolved into this being more about the guests at that point, and it really rung true. And Jess, the book designer who come through at the end, he sort of put them towards the back of more of the action shots of all the T-shirts and the things, and so the first part of the book is all about the guests, and what we came together of saying is humanising the face of homelessness. This book is telling stories. I've got to say about that the cover image of Fiona, who's on the cover image. If you can show us the back, Jack. Sorry, so that's Fiona when we met Fiona, and then if you flip it round to Fiona when I'd finished, like. Her story we was all together at that session. She came in, she was so nervous, she was so vulnerable, and she'd been busking and these kids attacked her. So they attacked her. They not only attacked her, with feet and fists. They used a scaffold pole to attack her. They smashed her guitar. They smashed her hands. So it wasn't enough to smash her instrument. They had to smash the hands that created the music. And I think they smashed her spirit as well at the time. And we went a little way to rebuilding that. We couldn't rebuild her hands, we couldn't rebuild her, but we rebuilt her spirit. And I think that is the power of that. And that's why her theme of Fiona has run through so much, because it was one of the strongest stories I think we came across, and the strongest makeovers, because when she finished, she emerged a different human being.
She really did. Yeah. It was a beautiful moment. It was right towards the end of that session as well, wasn't it, in north of England, and we'd all travelled up, and she was so beautiful with her honesty and her story and fun. I mean, look, the attack had happened pretty soon before that session, but she was a funny woman, wasn't she, and just had good banter with all of us. And it's quite a busy room with a few other volunteers there as well and guests. But she was full of life, wasn't she?
Yeah. And that's. I mean, what was nice for when Rob handed me that book and he sat next to me on my sofa and he'd seen all of these things, but it took quite a time, because as I went over each page, I told him the story.
Beautiful
person, and he was really moved, because And I was moved because you realise how much you know about our guests, how much, you know, anyone wants me to sit with them and go through this book, I'll tell you everything about them all.
Yeah, likewise.
It's like, I don't know, this is why, there's another book out there, it's just in time for Christmas and all that. This is why this is so powerful and it means so much more.
The enormity of those stories, and bases, it's, and in a lovely way, sort of sums up the title of the book as well, isn't it? Hear Me, See Me. They're huge stories, and hopefully we've come a little bit of a way to show some of those. And people that have shown the book, I sometimes think people might just flick through it, but they've not. They've wanted to sit down like what Rob did with you. And the three of us, luckily, with Mary and Belinda, we're at an event tomorrow. And we'll be taking this and showing this to a load more new people, and every single one of them has just been taken aback by the, I think we touched on it earlier in this chat, our preconceptions are massive, aren't they? Leigh said that about himself earlier. I've absolutely felt that for me as well. And hopefully this book helps, to use our phrase, humanise the face of homelessness a little bit more, and to help hopefully people get more involved in the charity, more awareness about homelessness in the United Kingdom, because it's massive and it's getting worse. Sam McKnight touched on that. It's a problem. Yeah.
And the thing I find, you said that, and even myself as well. It's 7 years now. It was 7 years in November that I started this. And I thought I knew it all when I first went in, because I'd had, at that point, 8 years of working with people with addictions. So I was working with, I was going volunteering. I was going to like Salvation Army and talking to guys who had alcohol problems and drug problems. And I sort of thought I knew it, and I knew nothing. I knew absolutely nothing until I started doing this. I had all the preconceived ideas. I thought all alcoholics was, street homeless was probably alcoholic or drug dependent, or, and that's not the case. I meet a lot of people who don't drink, who don't take drugs. I meet a lot of people who have never drunk or taken drugs until they was in this situation, and then that's led them on to that. The big thing we find is untreated mental illness. People that have not got the help and support. I've learned so much. I've learned about domestic violence, coercive relationships, what it's like to come out of prison and there be no support, what it's like to come out of the services, service people, what it's like to come out of that and having PTSD and then not having the support that then leads to, homelessness.
Vulnerability, Stuart, as well.
Vulnerability in general, yeah.
So I was just going to say, vulnerability and lack of support that might end up with people ending up in these addictions or in prison. And there's a lot of people, some people may say, oh, well, they ended up, they're alcoholics, or and put the blame on the individual. But that's something that I'm learning. There's a lot more rooted that leads to events, and people. Drug addiction and alcoholism leads to homelessness, but whereas homelessness leads to alcoholism and drug addiction, crime and things like this. There isn't that. But obviously we experience amazing centres and behind it, but you know, that's scratching the surface of you know, where the problem starts.
Yeah. And I can only know from my own experience that if there isn't the support there, I mean, I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm like, they say that I'm in 3% of long-term sobriety, because most of us don't make it. Most of us don't survive, and that's now in today's society. You know, that without action in place. I mean, I was lucky enough to go to AA at the right time. I went, and so, you know, whatever you do, but AA for me worked. But it's all about action, and it's all about finding something that works for you, and then surrounding yourself with people that support you, which is difficult. And even if you've got, I mean, I was lucky. I was the lucky one. I've got a home. I've got a family. None of that mattered. None of that matters when you're in addiction. You know, like it's you know, you don't even see that you're losing everything until it's gone. You don't appreciate it till you've lost it. And that's why I appreciate everything so much now, because I am one of the lucky ones that have still managed to keep all that, and it grow and flourish because of, you know, the appreciation I've got for it, probably. And that's where the shames of this world touch my heart, because I'm shamed. Like, I am shamed without the support. I'm shamed without the break. And that shames me, because Shane's may turn the corner, and please God, he ends up staying there and going the full course, and he can then go on. And the thing is, it's the happy ripple effect, that when one person gets helped, it's not just one person that gets helped. Like, if you think of my family, my children, my grandchildren, my mum, my sister, colleagues, all of these people that if I'd have still been back where I was, wouldn't have had the benefit of the good things that's happened to me. We would have never met. This book wouldn't have got made. The people I've helped wouldn't have got helped. You know, that's why it's worth helping and supporting people, because it's cost effective, Mr. Boris. You know, because if you spend the time and help people, you know, you can't just put a plaster on this. You've got to go to the root cause. Drinking and drugs weren't my problem. They was the medicine. You know, you had to go to the root of the problem, which you know, if you get to the root of the problem, then if you want to heal a wound, it has to heal from the inside out. If you just cover a wound, it will fester, and that's what's happening. So you need to heal from the inside out, and that's what we've got to do with these people and these problems. We've got to get right to the root, and it's support and it's care. And I'm not professing that haircuts for homeless is curing all of these things, but at least it gives a temporary respite from that, you know.
Temporary respite, and it contributes significantly to people feeling better, or being able to go to, you know, in my very first session, we chatted about it earlier when I didn't take any pictures and was just listening. The guy was getting his hair cut to go down to Brighton for an interview with social services to have access to his son for the first time in 6 years. So, you know, you've been doing this for 7 years now, Stuart. Imagine how many different beautiful effects and actions you've had on people's lives, not just through cuts that, you know, you have given, but through the volunteers like Jackie up north that you've set up through your idea. And this is why it's really important. And there isn't a simple solution for homelessness or the effects of homelessness, including, you know, mental health and levels of poverty as well, but it contributes to a better life. And like you said, you know, politicians and the system just needs to wake up and see what is really happening here. Because, without, Leigh talked about it earlier, some of these sessions do offer, the residential sessions do offer courses or simple things like food and medication and health checks, but they're getting few and far between with cuts. So where are people going?
Something else that was really interesting for me is to notice the amount of people that have been helped by these centres. Their next ambition was to be employed by these centres or volunteer for these centres, and to give back the help they received to get them through their difficult times. I remember the young lad in Brighton. He was telling us that he used to visit. He used to be a guest as a kid. They used to go there with his mum to get socks and toothbrushes and things that I've never needed them for. I've never been without socks and toothbrush. And his mum would take him and his brother, I think, to collect items like that. He's obviously been through a place. He got himself in a bit of trouble, but then when he came out, he's been working there for a long time, helping, advising. He's someone relatable to other people going through the same situation, and just has a huge knock-on effect, positive knock-on effect.
That's William and his brother was there as well that day. So him and his brother were both there. I'm hoping to get William and the centre manager on the podcast, because William's story is incredible. And it was funny, I saw him the day you're talking about, and I probably hadn't seen him for 3 years, but the minute he walked down the road, I said, William, I don't know where the name came from, it was just there, it is. I think we're heading towards the end, so we need to really nail it. We need to do the sales push now. This is the sales push of who should buy this book. Right, our mission is to get a copy of this book in every salon, every barbershop, every beauty parlour in the UK. Now, there's thousands and thousands of salons and barbershops and that. So there's no need, even though we've got a limited run of 1,000 that we've printed. This could be reprinted and go on, and prices. We've priced the book as best we could at £49. I mean, there's books of the equivalent that are a lot more, but we wanted to get it out there to as many people as possible, including P&P. Its domestic is £55. That includes post and packaging. Domestic. I remember, and we sort of used my experience of being a salon owner for 30 years, of how many Christmases I gave out 50 quid here, there and everywhere to the local raffles and all these things. Well, this is a chance of any salon owner or barbershop owner that for 50 quid you can get something, this beautiful book, delivered to your salon to put on your reception, to tell everyone that you actually do care about people. It's a great advert. It will then also spreads the message. I mean, it'll bring money into the charity, but it also then lets all of your customers, it's going to ripple out again, because they'll open that and they'll see human beings, they'll see stories, they'll see, they'll maybe it'll change a few impressions of people that it's just the person on the corner with a cup in their hand. This is real human beings, and I think it's a no-brainer. For the price it is. I think every salon in the country should have one. I think that the fact that Hairdressers Journal, Jane at Hairdressers Journal's fully behind us, they're going to be pushing it out for us. Nicky Pope at Tribute, and it's captured the hairdressing world by storm, and we need to now physically get it out there So, getting it, selfieing it, sharing it. We've got the legend Sam McKnight in the foreword. We've got the beautiful Leigh from Game of Thrones in the foreword. And so I can only say is that, and that's where it starts. I mean, that's our starting point. It's obviously not exclusively for salons and barbershops. It can then go on to, far and field, but this is our obvious target market at the beginning.
Absolutely, it's our obvious target market, and we're looking at ways. These kind of really good suggestion of kind of a salon reward system, which we're looking at how we can implement that. But I think it is wider than that. We want to get it into bookshops. There's definitely a street culture feel to it as well. It's broader than just the hair industry. There's the fashion element as well. Like I said, the street culture. So, and it is, without banging on, it's a beautiful art book with just beautifully designed. It's a weighty piece. So I think we're only just beginning to explore where we can put the book properly, but the salons is a very good and obvious place. And on the reception, on the sort of coffee table, it's wherever. It's a beautiful piece for people to pick up.
Yeah. Restaurants, Leigh?
Yeah, restaurant. I think, I think we were in agreement from the beginning. We just wanted it as premium, high quality as possible. And the reason we took some of the branded haircuts for homeless stuff out is because we didn't want it to be like a charity. We wanted it to be a real serious art, spreading a message, but also appeal to those people that already volunteer, charitable, got connections to homeless. We wanted to spread this message far and as wide as possible. But, the salon, as you both said, that's just the obvious starting place. And, salons, clients that come through that door that are going to be in, maybe they'll see it and that change, like I said, for the client, but will want to buy a copy themselves. And, that's in new people. And then they might to someone also switch their perception, and I can just feel up to, as far and wide as possible.
I've got to mention it's not done completely, but the Green Salon Collective are looking at taking copies in bulk, and they'll be selling them on their website to their customers, which will then be delivered with their deliveries. So it cuts out the postage. So things like that, something like Green Salon, they can shift a lot of books for us. And they're, again, reminding everyone that the whole of the profit, Green Salon are kindly doing that. They're one of our sponsors, and they're doing that, with no financial gain to themselves. The whole lot goes into haircuts for homeless, so.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And that's only just, the start of it, really. Well, guys, thank you very much. It's been, told you it'd go quick. We're nearly at the hour mark. Sorry if I've waffled on a bit, but it's so close to me, and I've said to some people that like when they said about haircuts for homeless, now it's grown, and I must be proud, and I don't really take that on board too much, but I can honestly say that when I first held that book, I'm really proud of it. It's something I'm really proud of. I think all three of us can be proud of. I think that it's something that I said that can live on after us. I mean, we get such a tiny amount of time on this world, but that book's there. That book's going to live on. It's going to tell people what we've done, and those lovely people are going to live on in it as well. all of those lovely guests are going to live on as well in that. So thank you, guys.
Thank you for having us, mate.
No, it's been emotional. So everyone, buy the fucking book. Yeah. Right, see you later. Back to Sunday lunch.
Yeah, big love. See you tomorrow.
It's just over 5 years ago. I did something that changed my life. What it did, more than I could have ever realised, it helped me. I have met some absolutely amazing people. Some of the people that work in some of these places, many of them are volunteers, but some of them, it is their job. This is more than a job. This is a calling.